Welcome to Zeke Plays, where I suffer in games so you don't have to. Skyrim is a game with many ways to deal damage. Swords, spells, shouts, really anything you can get in your hands you can deal damage with. One of the more obscure ways you can deal damage is in a way you're not really meant to use: torches. These puppies are really just meant to light up dark areas like caves and dungeons, but did you know they actually act as shields? You can use them to block damage and bash people dealing a small amount of fire damage. So let's see how hard it would be to beat the game with only torches. Let's go over the rules real quick. I can only use torches to deal damage to enemies, meaning no spells or shouts. I'm also playing this run on Adept difficulty. I would have done Legendary, except I'd actually value my sanity. Starting out with character creation, I chose to go with Redguard because they have an ability to replenish stamina very quickly once a day. This will only be useful at the start of the run before I unlock my secret weapon, but it'll help. For some reason, I named my character Torch Porch the Gorge. I've got no clue what was going through my brain at the time. Must have been in a state of psychosis. In Helgen, I'd basically just run my way past all the enemies because there aren't any torches I can grab in the keep. Once I'm out in the open world, I go with the Warrior Stone because torches actually count towards your block skill. First step, go to Embershard Mine. This is the earliest point in the game that you can get access to torches, and luckily for me, there are plenty here. I will need a few, because torches actually aren't permanent. They get consumed after a while of using them, so having a few spare to my disposal is going to be super important for the run. But let's take a second to really appreciate how long it takes to kill even a basic enemy like this bandit. I use my daily power too, so I could hit them more often, but after 60 seconds it runs out and I'm left back to waiting 5 to 10 seconds between each hit. So I'm gonna get out of here. Now it's time to unlock my secret weapon, the one key to success that will take this run to the next level. The gods themselves could not have created a more powerful item. Let me show you the game-breaking, life-changing, enemy-destroying being that will save this run. Vegetable soup. I'm not kidding. Made with cabbage, leeks and tomatoes, vegetable soup replenishes 1 health and stamina per second. With any action that requires stamina in Skyrim, you can actually perform them as long as you have any amount of stamina, which means, if you see where I'm going with this, I can now attack with my torch once every second. These last for a long time as well, so if I stock up on them, they'll last me a long time. Oh, and even better, they stack on top of each other. So if I get into a situation where I'm out of potions and I need to heal, I can eat 2 or 3 of them and regenerate my health super quickly. So now that I've scavenged every single crop in the city of Whiterun, leaving every farmer now completely out of food and a job, it's time to go to Bleak Barrow and test out my torching skills. First little watchtower goes down with relative ease. It still takes a while to kill enemies, but at least bashing them stun locks them, so there isn't too much resistance. The only problem is when I need to deal with multiple enemies at once, but I'll touch on that a little later on. Snake, whale, burn down some skeevers, and now it's spider time. Nil. Unfortunately for Arvel here, he got stun locked into a fiery death before he could even run. Now that I've snatched the golden claw off him, I've got to deal with these Draugr. Then I kind of come to the conclusion that I don't want to deal with these Draugr unless I have to, especially after how long it took to take down this one restless Draugr. A few torch swings later and I'm put up against the Overlord at the end of the dungeon. Luckily for me, it's a one-on-one fight, so I can pretty much just stun lock him to death, which is nice. Now at this point, you're probably wondering why I didn't just set my game to Legendary, seeing as apart from just the time it takes to kill enemies, this run is going relatively smoothly. Well, there's 2 reasons. 1, Legendary is just not balanced, as we've seen in my previous videos. The enemies become so tanky to the point that it would take minutes to just defeat one basic enemy. But that's not the main reason. The main reason is that if I'm dealing with multiple enemies at a time, I'm going to take hits. And if one of those enemies uses a ranged weapon like bows or magic, there is absolutely no way I can avoid damage. Meaning instant death, basically. And trust me, even on Adept, I get pretty close to instant death situations a little later on, so I think it's fair that I stick to normal difficulty for now. Tangent aside, we've got the Dragonstone now, which means it's time to fight the first dragon at the Watchtower. For once, I actually got pretty involved in the fight. Dragons are always an issue in these runs, of course, but for once they actually weren't impossible. Because bashing with torches does actually stun enemies, it means that I can help out with the fight and be relatively safe while doing it. I said relatively. After denying Lydia's advances, I make my way to Iverstead, except this time I actually bought myself a horse so I don't need to assault a random hunter. I'm a lawful good character this time. Talk to Klimek to deliver the supplies for some sweet cash that I'd never get because I forgot to go back to him, and before long I've ran straight past the Frost Troll and reach High Hrothgar. Now when it comes to shouts, I'm going to allow myself to use them as long as they aren't dealing damage to enemies. Obviously I need to use them in some parts of the main quest, but I'll let myself use Dragon Rend against dragons, Clear Skies to help out a bit, and Whirlwind Sprint to navigate around easier. It doesn't do any direct damage at all, so I think it should be accepted. Feel free to feed the algorithm by getting angry at me in the comments. The Greybeards have sent me to Ustengrav to retrieve the horn of Jurgen Windcaller, and while it did take a couple of tries to beat the Necromancer outside, once I got in, I realized that there are too many enemies here to properly deal with them. I was outgunned, so I used my legs to run out of there. I don't know why I wrote that. Obviously I used my fucking legs. These skeletons denied me of a good time, and then these spiders did the same. Then Delphine denied me of a good time, and shortly after that she denied me of my desire to have ears. When I entered Riverwood, these cultists decided to intervene, so upon leaving the inn, I got the whole town to deal with them. They lasted a little longer than I would have wanted, but oh well. After speaking to Delphine, she decides that I need to prove myself to her. I'm the fucking Dragonborn, and no, I didn't kill this dragon to please her, I did it of my own volition because I felt like it. But really, this wasn't too bad. The torch staggers it enough that I'm not completely useless in the fight, and it leaves me relatively safe unless I miss a hit. But now is when it starts to get interesting, and by interesting I mean almost gave me an aneurysm. It's time for the Thalmor Embassy with the quest Diplomatic Immunity. In this quest, we need to sneak into the Thalmor Embassy to find out what the Thalmor know about the dragons coming back. Getting there is no real issue. I introduce myself to Alduin and cause a distraction, but then I come face to face with hordes of Thalmor. You know what I was saying before about how fighting multiple enemies is hard and near impossible when one is ranged? Yeah, so getting past this was about as fun as skydiving without a parachute. There was a rush of excitement at the start, but it was quickly replaced with a sense of impending doom. The two Thalmor mages were the major issue here. I could stunlock one, but I kept having to hide behind a corner and heal up every 2 seconds because the other one would come from around the corner and decide to fuck up my day. I eventually got around it by stacking up on vegetable soup and putting the pressure on him until he was murdered to death, and then I could focus on the last one. He decided to be a little shy and hide behind these boxes in the corner, but he knew it was over. I could sense the fear in his eyes. After this, Malborn decided to take on a frost troll. I avenged him and got the hell out of there. That was stressful, and took about 20 minutes just to get past one room. You know what won't take long? Subscribing! Currently, about 97% of people that watch my videos aren't subscribed. So press this button, I want to hit 10k by the end of the year. I drag my ass back to Delphine, and now she wants me to wade through some sewers to find an old man that goes by the name Esbern. I take a carriage to Riften and make my way into the Ratway, and honestly struggle a bit to burn these guys. It's the same issue I ran into before, where there's multiple enemies and one is ranged, it is near impossible to avoid damage. But after a very close brush with death, I was able to get them. Toasted some lowlives, and once I get deeper into the sewers, I struggle quite a bit to kill all these Thalmor, especially on the way out after I've talked to Esbern. The mages, once again, were the biggest challenge, but after a few minutes of struggle, I was able to get out of there with Esbern by my side. This whole run was pretty satisfying because it really felt like an achievement after getting past each challenging portion. Taking down enemies is slow and dangerous, but I got into a flow after a while. Some of these Thalmor had torches on them too, so that was a bonus. Now that I'm out of the sewers, I gave this would-be assassin the roast of a lifetime and headed straight back to Riverwood so these two could rekindle their old flame. Aww. But now of course it's time to head to Skyhaven Temple, where Alduin's wall is located, which should be able to tell me how the Old Nords defeated Alduin. Spoiler alert, it's a shout, but I'll let Esbern tell me that so he feels important to the story. Once again, I'm going to ignore the all-out war that's happening outside of the cave here. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty comfortable in the run so far, but not comfortable enough to take on 2 dragons and an army of Forsworn. This Briarheart decided to follow me through the fucking puzzles and pulled a fast one on me, using my own traps against me. What an arsehole. Spill the dragon juice, upgrade my armor to blade stuff, learned that I need to talk to Parthenax to progress the story, and next thing you know I've pissed off Arngeir. But I've learned Clear Skies now, and it's time to head up to the top of the throat of the world. On the way there, I encountered an ice wraith, which even on a normal run is super annoying, but it was a total slog to try and get its health down. Not only does it have a bunch of health and do ridiculous damage, but its attacks also drain my stamina faster than it recovers with the vegetable soup, which means I'm stuck there looking like a dickhead for a few seconds wiggling my arms around. I killed the first one, but I just ran past the rest because I was not going through that another 2 or 3 times. I finally reach the top and have a quick chat with Party Snacks, and this is where I learn I need to get an Elder Scroll. Great. So I head to the exit of the Dwarven Ruin after snatching some wooden plates and clip myself in after banging my head into the gate for way too long. Then I realise that I haven't talked to Septimus yet, which means I don't have the cube thing to activate the puzzle, which means I need to go find him before I can grab the scroll. God damn it. So after a while of exploring our galaxy, running past some ice fields, talking to the lunatic and going on a side quest to retrieve more soup, I go back and grab the Elder Scroll, meaning I'm now ready to face Alduin for the first fight. I was pretty nervous going into this, as I've said quite a few times in this challenge runs. The first fight with him is always the most difficult boss fight of the run, because you don't have any other people to rely on for doing damage other than the few times Parthenax actually helps out. But to my surprise, this wasn't completely brain-rotting. I mean, it took a while and I had quite a few close calls, but I don't think I died even once during this fight. Dragon rending both Alduin and Parthenax at the same time helped, because it kept Parthenax on the ground dealing damage to him, which made it go along a bit more smoothly. I learned that trick in the Pacifist run. Still took about 10 to 15 minutes of non-stop torching to take him down, but hey, that's basically a speed run compared to some of my previous videos. Now it's time for the most fun, exciting part of the game, the peace tree. Moving swiftly past that, I now have to trap a dragon in Dragon's Reach so he can take me to Skyrim, which has a portal to Sovngarde, which is like Nordic heaven, which is where Alduin fled to using that portal. I know, it's really easy to follow, just stay with me here. Trapping the dragon goes as smoothly as usual. This poor guard met my past self in space, and before long, Farengar got the shit scared out of him, and I was riding that dragon out of there straight to the portal. Skullduffen once again was a nightmare. Ranged enemies, multiple dragons, and once I actually got into the dungeon, there were just too many Draugrs to reliably take out. I did manage to do some good damage to most of these guys at the start though. I also had to deal with frostbite spiders, which have poison attacks that drain your stamina. Just like the ice wraiths, it means that I can't attack them for a few seconds after I get hit with it. I died a lot, but I was able to get through it after about 20 minutes of just grinding my way through. I ran past the Dragon Priest and jumped into the portal to Sovngarde. After running through the mist, I'm put up against Soon, the Nordic god of war, to test if I'm worthy to enter the Hall of Valor. I started bashing him, knocking him back bit by bit. It was all going fairly well, then I fucking killed him. I knocked him off the side of a mountain and the quest progressed. Don't worry, our boy was back in tip-top condition when I crossed the bridge. He didn't want to talk about what just happened. I think he was a little embarrassed. But here we are, the end game. Me and the old heroes line up outside and start shouting into the sky, and before long, Alduin comes down for the final battle. I felt for the first time in a while that I can actually bring the fight to him, and trust me, my trusty old torch did not let up. Alduin put up a good fight, but it was no match to a random fire stick I grabbed out of a cave at the start of the game. So I suppose that answers the question. Yes, you can beat Skyrim with only a torch. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you can be notified when I upload. Huge thank you to all of my members for the incredible support, and most importantly, have a wonderful day.